Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my 19 female daughter she will have to move out of my house if I get divorced because of her lies after her stepdad saw her naked? Original post. Throwaway account due to the situation. But I need to know because I'm getting calls and texts from family accusing me of being an a-hole for not being on my daughter's side. My husband and I have been married for a little over 5 years now. I will say my daughter 19 female and he have an okay relationship. Not exactly father and daughter, but more of an advice ask and given type of relationship. I have never picked up on anything weird from my husband toward my daughter, and my daughter has never said or insinuated anything either. On Thursday, my husband and I were watching a movie in the living room. We paused the movie when he got up to use the bathroom. I heard him knocking on the door twice, literally 3 knocks each time, a couple of seconds apart. It was loud enough for me to hear from the living room. The next moment, I heard screaming. I rushed to the bathroom and saw my daughter completely naked, covering herself and yelling at my husband to get out. I didn't see everything that happened, but what I saw after hearing the yelling was my husband literally falling over his own feet and struggling to get the bathroom door closed. I asked my husband what happened and he said he knocked. Nobody answered, so we went in and saw my daughter naked in front of the mirror. He said to try to get out as quickly as possible. After my daughter calmed down, I asked her side of the story. She said she was changing and all of a sudden, my husband walked into the bathroom. I asked her why she didn't answer when he knocked. She said he didn't knock. I told her I heard him knock, so I was sure he did. She then admitted she didn't hear it because she had her AirPods on and was listening to music. We sorted the situation out, and my husband apologized to her, explaining that he thought the bathroom was empty. She even gave him a hug and apologized for yelling at him. The problem now is that my daughter got family members involved, and they are now calling my husband a creep. I got a call from my sister berating me for still having my husband in the house. I asked what she meant, and it came out that my daughter spun a whole other story. She left out the fact that she was listening to music with her AirPods and told everyone that she answered him, but he still walked into the bathroom to look at her. We have cameras in our hallway that prove my husband knocked. You can see it on the video, but the cameras have no audio. I sat my daughter down and asked her about it. She denied saying anything like that or telling anyone. I got mad and asked, "Then how does your aunt know what happened?" She went silent. She admitted she talked to my niece about it, and my niece must have told her mother. I asked her why she lied about what happened and made my husband look bad when he did nothing wrong. She denied lying about anything, but I told her what my sister said. She started crying and apologized, saying she was just talking and making up scenarios with her niece. Yesterday, I got calls and texts from family members as the wrong story spread. My husband is now looking like a creep to everyone. I sat my daughter down again and had her read some of the things being said about my husband. I told her she has to fix this because her lying caused it. She refused, saying she didn't spread this and only told her cousin. She also doesn't want to say anything to anyone because they'll think badly of her. She said, "They know my husband and this will just blow over." Everything blew up when my husband walked into the living room with his bags packed and said he's going to stay with his parents for a while because he doesn't want to be in this situation anymore, where he's made out to be this kind of person. My daughter broke down, apologized repeatedly, and said she would fix it, but my husband still left. I told her that if I get divorced because of her lies, she will be moving out of my house. I told her she better fix what she did and tell everyone what really happened because I will not lose a man who loves and actually cares for me over lies. She asked me to help her and I told her no. She isn't a child anymore, and her lies for attention caused this. This is on her. Now I'm being accused of taking my husband's side and not providing a safe space for my daughter. I don't know what to do. My husband asked for space, my daughter is inconsolable, and I am not in the best state myself. Now for the comments before reading the update. Extremely distressing for your husband. I would take your daughter, drive to the niece's house, sit down with the niece and her mother, and make your daughter tell them the real story. After that, I would insist that the niece's mother call every single person she or they told and admit she was wrong. If your daughter refuses, kick her out. For every person who said anything about your husband, cut them out of your life unless they apologize to him in person. She said she was lying, but for all I know, she's lying now. Her mom is making her say it's a lie. Why has the husband moved out if it was just a mistake? No matter what she says now, people will still believe he's a creep. I hope she's happy. You're the a-hole. Door locks. Stop making assumptions. Who said I don't have locks on the doors? Is it my fault my daughter didn't use the freaking lock on the door? You're the a-hole if you choose a man over your daughter. So I should choose my daughter who lied for attention, or some reason I don't really know, especially over something like this, over a man that has done nothing but love me and cared for us both without asking for anything in return? Yes and no. Your daughter needs therapy. Something caused her to lie and create this chaos. If you kick her out, you could lose her for good, or she could really spiral out of control. Your husband did nothing wrong since you heard him knocking even though the video has no sound. I honestly think therapy for her individually, along with family therapy, will probably work in time. Nobody can say with 100% accuracy if it will, but it's worth trying. I know many are downvoting me, but honestly, I don't care. I just strongly feel that everything that can be done to help your daughter should come first. I will sound selfish now, I know that, but I don't care. My husband comes first now. My marriage comes first. Trying to fix what she broke comes first, not her. Especially since she refuses to help fix what she broke. Actions have consequences, and again, I will be called a bad mother, but she's going to learn this lesson the hard way. Now for the update over a week later. Sorry for only updating now, but I'm not in the best place at the moment, and it has taken me a couple of days to get my thoughts together. I don't know what to do anymore. My husband has asked for a divorce. First, let me answer a couple of questions I saw coming up repeatedly. Locks. We have locks on every door in the house. I don't know why my daughter didn't use the lock on the bathroom door. Cameras. The cameras inside the house aren't pointed at any door, except for the ones at the front and back doors. The other camera is at the end of the hall, and you can see every door in the hallway from that camera. Bathroom. We have a bathroom in our bedroom, but we can't use it at the moment because the water is shut off due to renovations. On Friday, my husband came back home and asked to talk. During our conversation, he showed me his phone, and some of the things my family members were saying about him were outright horrible. Calling him a pedo, asking him how many times he had peeked before. I don't recognize my family anymore. I understand if he had actually done something wrong, but he hasn't. The hatred they are showing over a stupid mistake tells me they refuse to listen, or they have hated him from the start and are now using this to try and get rid of him. He said he can't ever come back, and that this has now started to affect his work life as well. He was called into HR to explain himself, because some of my family members had called his office. Luckily, his employer hasn't taken any action and refuses to do anything unless a case is brought against him. They know my husband very well, and I think they believe him because he is still working. During our talk, he explained that he does love me and is happy I stood up for him, but my daughter's actions have caused too many problems, accusations, and fears. He said he has been sitting at the office and at his parents' home every day, just waiting for the police to show up and arrest him. He said her lies broke him, and he can't see a way to come back from this. I asked him to reconsider and suggested counseling, but he refused, saying everything is too broken to fix. I told him I would kick my daughter out and explained everything I had done to address the situation. However, he said I'm missing the point. His life could have been completely ruined because of a lie. My family will never trust him again and will always harbor hatred or suspicions about him. Now that my daughter wants to clear things up so long after the fact, they will think we forced her to do it, which will just make things worse. He said he will always remain the creep in their eyes. I told him we could cut off my family and move away. I showed him my phone and the messages I sent to every single person who refused to listen, and I told him I blocked them. He asked about my daughter. I said I would kick her out and she could stay with my parents. He asked if, after we moved away, I would abandon my daughter completely, because he doesn't want to be near her or alone with her at all. I didn't know how to respond. Before I could answer, he said again that it's better for us to get divorced. He said, I will never ask you to abandon your daughter. I will never expect you to do something like that. But I don't want her anywhere near me. If you abandon your daughter, I don't know if I could ever look at you the same afterwards, even if it was for my sake. The only solution here is for us to get divorced. At that moment, my daughter came running down the hallway into the living room, crying. I think she had been listening to our conversation. Before she could say anything, my husband jumped up from the couch, put his hands out, and asked her not to come near him. He said, "Before you say anything, I will start recording the conversation now," and took out his phone. I think I saw something break in my daughter's eyes at that moment as the realization of everything hit her all at once. She asked my husband to forgive her and said she never meant for things to get so out of hand. She explained she was just making up scenarios with her cousin, and her cousin ran with it. My husband asked her why she didn't clear it up immediately. She said she didn't think it would go this far and thought it would just blow over because everyone knows him. He showed her his phone and asked her to read some of the messages. My daughter went completely silent. We talked for about 4 hours. At the end, my husband said he would give us 3 months to move out of the house because it is his house. He said my daughter could keep the car because it was a gift and that he would finish paying this year's tuition but would not pay anything going forward. He said he hasn't gotten a lawyer yet but told me to get one. He would like to handle the divorce without lawyers, but if I want one, I can get one. He said he would be fair in the divorce and doesn't harbor anything against me, but he can't stay in the relationship. My daughter was sitting on the floor, looking like a ghost. I couldn't say anything while listening to him talk about divorce and splitting assets as if the last 5 years were nothing. The best way to describe it is like he was returning something to a store. He left the house and I just sat on a couch. I don't know if I was crying, talking, or what. I can't remember much, as everything felt muffled. Then my daughter started crying, saying, "Sorry, sorry, sorry," over and over while lying on the floor. When I got up, I saw my husband's car still in the driveway. I looked out the window and saw him crying in the car. Seeing that completely broke me. My daughter and I haven't talked since Friday. My family members have shown up at the house to apologize because my daughter has now cleared everything up and even shared a video from the camera with them. Every time they show up, I just close the door in their faces. I've been getting Facebook messages, Instagram messages, calls, and texts. When I block them, they create new accounts or use different numbers. I don't want to lose my husband. I really don't. This is the first man I've ever met who has treated me with kindness, respect, and love, and now it's all over. I've tried to talk to him and convince him to go to counseling, but every time I try, he responds, I can't take the risk. I've tried to meet him in person, but he says it wouldn't be a good idea. I've gone to his parents' house, but they refuse to let me see him. I've gone to his work, but I was told he was sent home by his boss. I don't know how to fix this. Having my daughter move out won't work because I need to move out of the house as well. I don't want anything from my husband, I just want him. I haven't talked to a lawyer yet, but I don't think I can keep the house. He owned it before we moved in. I really want to fix this. I still want to kick my daughter out of the house, but would he still give me a chance to fix it, even after what he said about me abandoning my daughter and not seeing me the same afterwards? Am I really going to lose a wonderful man? Edit. I forgot how Reddit fixates on one thing. Regarding the house, I have no intentions of trying to take his house or anything like that. It's not my house. I had questions in my previous post about the house, and I think I just answered them here. I am not going to try to take his house. He owns it and has owned it since before we got together. I have no right to the house and will not try to take it. I hope this clears it up. Quite simply, you can't fix this. What your daughter did is absolutely horrendous. She has ruined your soon-to-be ex-husband's reputation and your relationship with one lie. Stop visiting him at work. Stop trying to contact him. Just stop. As hard as this is for you, it's even harder for him. The more you reach out, violating his boundaries, the more likely he is to build resentment. If you're unable to respect his wishes regarding contact, it's no wonder your daughter has boundary issues. Focus on rebuilding your and your daughter's lives from scratch, without him. Get therapy for your daughter so she learns to be better. Right now, she's a dumpster fire. It sounds like he is going to be very kind to you in the divorce. Exactly. Opie needs to leave this poor man alone. And leave him alone for good. He doesn't deserve all this drama. What is happening with your sister and her daughter? Is your niece showing remorse? Are there going to be consequences for her actions? Do you think your family will reach out to your husband's company to apologize for their stupidity? I'm sorry, Opie. I wish people understood how false allegations can ruin a person's life. Your daughter and niece's stupidity and callous behavior destroyed a family, a marriage, your relationship with your daughter, and your relationship with family members. They are completely silent. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my mom to Christmas dinner after what she did last year? I'm 34 years old and a mom of 2 little kids. Last year, during Christmas dinner, my mom 65 caused a big scene. She showed up with several bottles of wine, even though we all knew she's in treatment for alcohol issues. At first, everything was fine, but halfway through dinner, she started criticizing my husband, 37, in front of everyone. She mocked his job and said it wasn't good enough for her daughter. I tried to calm her down, but after a few minutes, she started bad-mouthing me too, saying I had been a disappointment as a daughter. My kids, who are 7 and 4, were there listening to everything. It was so humiliating, we had to ask her to leave. This year, I decided not to invite her to avoid a similar drama, but my sister of 40 is furious with me. She says it's cruel to leave her alone on Christmas, and that I should give her another chance. My husband supports my decision, but the rest of my family is making me feel like the villain. Am I the bad one for protecting my family's peace and not inviting her? Now for the comments. Your sister is free to spend Christmas with her, but you're wise not to. Your kids come first, not your alcoholic mother. She doesn't get to ruin another holiday for them. They don't need those kinds of memories. Not a-hole. Exactly. Inviting her over again will just lead to another ruined holiday. Protect your peace and your children. Your sister can host her if she really wants to. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. My mom did something similar to my sister last Christmas. She got very drunk and screamed at her over something trivial in front of her 2 young kids, 3 and 5. My sister cut her off completely after that, and I don't blame her for a second. It shouldn't just be Christmas where your mom isn't welcome. She shouldn't be in OP's kids' lives at all, until she's been sober for a year. OP's husband shouldn't have to deal with her either, not until she's been sober for a year and apologizes to him for being disrespectful. Not the a-hole. I am a substance abuse therapist. This is a boundary you need to put in place to protect yourself and your family, as well as to send a message that you won't tolerate her poor choices and behavior. Love her from a distance. Time can heal these wounds, but she needs to prove to you that she will stay clean and sober, and she needs to rebuild that trust.
Update. My fiancé cheated on me, at least that is what I think. But she and her family think it is not a big deal because she stopped before anything happened. Original post. My 32 fiancé 32 went on a road trip with her friends. I know all the friends she went with, and I'm pretty good friends with some of them. While on this road trip, she called me just to let me know everything was fine, and that she and her friends would go to a club. The next day in the morning, my fiancé's friend Stephanie called me and told me she saw my fiancé go upstairs with a guy. According to her, she had been to this club before and there is a hookup spot upstairs. This is what she told me, that after 5 to 10 minutes my fiancé came down, and when she asked her what was going on, my fiancé said nothing. So she got suspicious and went upstairs and saw the guy absolutely wasted. After this call, I called my fiancé to ask her about this. She told me she was drunk and messed up, but nothing happened and she got out of the situation as soon as she realized what was happening. To me, it categorizes as cheating, and on that phone call I told her I was breaking up with her. I didn't really listen to her after this and hung up. The same day but later, her family came over because my fiancé called them and explained her side of the story to them. They acknowledged that what she did was messed up, but since she stopped, this is salvageable and I should not throw away 10 years like that. The only reason I'm thinking about it is that they were genuinely comforting, aware, and not at all intimidating. Stephanie called me at night again and told me that my fiancé is extremely mad at her and trying to get her kicked out of the group for being a snitch. I think Steph did me a solid here, and I'm grateful to her. Even though she's her friend first, she told me. Right now, I don't know if I should dump her or not. The point where she took everything seems like cheating to me. The act itself is just an artifact, and the things leading up to it are just as important. I know for a fact that I cannot trust her. Even if there is some trust left, it is not enough to be engaged to her, let alone getting married to her in January of next year. She messaged me saying that I'm making it a bigger deal than it is, and that I should be grateful that she's this aware even when drunk to not cheat on me. But getting drunk is a freaking choice, and I will not really take it as an excuse. She is on her way back, and I don't know if I should just end it or try to work it out. Any advice? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Now for the advice. She wasn't going to tell you. Her friend did you a solid, and now she's mad at her friend because there is probably more that no one knows but her. I'm sure she told her family that PG story. Based on what your friend told you, your fiancé went up those stairs with full intentions of doing something. If your friend went up after your fiancé came down, and the guy was passed out, your fiancé didn't stop it. The guy's inability to stay conscious stopped it. This exactly. The only reason she stopped is because the guy is passed out, not because she was aware even when drunk. Why do you guys even think she stopped? She came down 5 to 10 minutes later. Despite how dudes brag, that's pretty par course of how long it usually lasts. Multiple red flags here, OP. 1. Going somewhere with the intent of hooking up/intimacy is cheating. Not even physically going. Texting is considered cheating for a reason, so her logic is extremely flawed. 2. She gaslights you, not how healthy relationships work. 3. She intended to sleep with a guy who was completely wasted, aka unable to consent. Since she was aware enough to leave, she was aware enough to consent and to know that the other person cannot. Predatory vibes. Of course, her family will try to do damage control. Don't fall for it and end it. You deserve better. Also, getting mad at her friend for snitching is a red flag. When you mess up, you should be thankful to have friends who hold you accountable. Stephanie's your friend too. She did you a solid. Turn tail and run. Don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy. You'll survive after leaving a 10-year relationship. Judging from your explanation of the club, I'd assume your soon-to-be ex has been there before, if she knew the layout, and that upstairs is for hookups. This might not be the first time she cheated, but the first time she was caught. Good luck. You know what you must do. And now for the update. If you are wondering, yes, I have free time. I'm on sick leave for my job. Getting to the point. I did a lot of thinking last night. Even though I made a post, it was more to validate what I already did. Maybe because I was scared to be breaking off a long-term relationship. After thinking about it and the events that happened afterward, I feel like I'm making the best choice for myself. I talked to both my ex-fiancé and Steph, and it solidified my initial response of breaking up. This morning when I and my ex were on the phone, she was convinced that I was being unreasonable, and my motive was to ruin her road trip. This tone persisted throughout the conversation. I still listened to her and she admitted she messed up, but it was not her fault. She just got drunk too much, so I can't really be mad at her. She also repeated that she stopped it even when drunk, so she's actually very faithful. When I asked her about the dude at his date, she never answered me. She also really didn't answer when I asked her what she was doing with someone who was passed out. In my mind, she being unable to answer these fact-based questions means she didn't get her story straight and think it all the way through. Last time when we spoke, she told me we can talk about it in detail when she comes back, which did indicate to me she was trying to fix it. But when I asked her today if she was on her way back, she said she'll come back in 3 weeks, and then we can talk about it and that I misunderstood her. Screw that. This kinda sealed the deal for me. There was no mention of Steph in this conversation. After that, I talked to Stephanie. My ex and her group moved forward with a road trip without her and didn't even tell her. She found out today when she woke up that all others had left. Kinda messed up in my opinion. I also asked her about the incident, and she told me that she'd made everyone aware of the hookup spot beforehand, so my fiancé knew what she was doing. Right now, I have many things going well for me, including my career. I work for a major airline and got into a high-level management position right before COVID. I don't want stuff like this holding me back, so cutting it off entirely seems like the way to go. Also, this is actually good for both of us. I can be in a proper relationship and she can go to hookup spots, stalk wasted dudes, and not do anything. Looks like a win-win to me. The funny thing is, at the very start, I wanted an open relationship and she shut it down. But years later, when in a monogamous relationship, she wants to pull crap like this. I did hook Steph up with a return ticket so she can get back home comfortably and safely. In the afternoon after her flight, she came over to talk about everything. I told her I was fine and thanked her for doing me a solid. 1.5 to 2 hours in, my ex sent me a message of her Snapchat location map and asked me what she was doing in our home. I told her she just came over to check if I was doing fine, because to most people, infidelity is a big deal. And I also corrected her that it was my home, and that she would move out when she gets back. Now I just have to focus on myself for now and wait and see if I live to regret this decision. Also, for people in the last post asking me, yes, to me that was cheating. And to those 3 to 4 people, screw you. You can't tell me how I'm supposed to feel my own emotions. Only I decide that. A real man doesn't feel emotion my butt. Congratulations for standing up for yourself. It sounds like your ex's family dealt with this issue more maturely than your ex. If she and her relationship were worth fighting to repair, she would have prioritized that, and she would have come straight home to try and repair it. The pattern of truth creep is worrisome. 1. Nothing happened. 2. Something happened but it wasn't bad. 3. Something bad happened but it wasn't my fault. 4. It was my fault that something bad happened but you must forgive me. 5. You and Stephanie are the real villains in my creeping quasi-confession. Don't second guess yourself. This was cheating. Here's a shout out to Stephanie. This year's winner of the No Good Deed Goes Unpunished award. She keeps saying she stopped herself from cheating, but it sounds like the only reason they didn't go all the way was because the guy passed out before they could do anything. The intent was clearly there on her part, and in my opinion, it was more than enough. I'm also throwing it out there that if she had done something, it would have absolutely been a crime. So it feels like she's trying to get a I didn't cheat award for not violating someone. Like, yay, she's not willing to commit an absolutely horrible crime. That means she's amazing, and OP/friend are monsters for being mad at her when she didn't even do it. Sorry, and at the same time good for you. Just make sure you pack her things in garbage plastic bags and drop them at her parents' house. Make sure you change the lock. This mess ain't over for her. I need to give her notice at least 14 days. After that, she is her parents' problem. Perfect timing. Just in time for her to return from her road trip. Give her notice now. Absolutely messed up. Sounds like everyone in that group, except Steph, is planning on doing a bunch of questionable things on this trip. If the other women are in monogamous relationships, you may want to warn their partners. Also, sounds like Steph may need a new friend group. Invite her along to your friend things and hang out with her. She sounds like a genuinely good human/bro. Good job dodging a bullet. Sorry it took so long to find out she wasn't a keeper. Now for the last story. Update. My 31 female husband, 32 male cheated on me with his ex and only gave me a half-truth. Original post. In mid-February, my 31 female husband, 32 male of 8 years, went away on a camping trip with his friends, one of which was his ex-girlfriend from college. A few days after, he came clean that he made out with his ex while he was there, but he swore it didn't mean anything. They were just both drunk. He hasn't contacted her since and he only loves me. Before we had a chance to sort through that, my mother had a bit of an accident, and not long after, she passed away. Anyways, about 7 months after my mom's death, so October, I actually ran to his ex while I was grocery shopping and asked me if we could talk maybe over coffee. I wanted to decline, but she was pretty insistent. She was basically in tears, apologized for sleeping with him, and explained that it didn't mean anything. That she had no idea we were still together because they hadn't kept in contact until that trip, and said feels even worse it happened so close to my mother's passing. So I then find out he lied on 2 fronts, so I confront him again. He tells me that he was going to tell me about sleeping with her, but I was so upset, and he didn't want to lose me, so he thought it was best to wait. Then after what happened to my mom, he couldn't bring himself to tell me at all. He then explained he only talked to her once over the phone because she recently broke up with her fiancé, and all her friends were on her fiancé's side. But he immediately told her that his wife's mom just died, and he couldn't help, and then blocked her. He even showed me on his phone that her number was blocked. And he didn't tell me because I wasn't doing well following my mom's death. For the last month, I have been pretty cold to him when our son, 7-year-old, isn't around, because I couldn't really face him. And when using our laptop, I found in the search history how to win custody for fathers, and I had a panic attack. I didn't understand what to do. I considered taking our son and staying at my dad and saying nothing, but I just couldn't. Last night, he came home extremely drunk, and he usually doesn't drink, trying to sneak in without waking me. But when I caught him, I figured it may be best to question him now because he probably couldn't lie. He just got a few drinks with work friends after, which I don't doubt. He ended up breaking down and saying that he does love me, but for a bit he just felt bored, and while drunk he made a bad choice. And immediately after he regretted it because he knew he only wanted me forever. I then asked about the custody thing, and hastily explained he thought I was going to leave him because of how I have been acting, and that he had no plans of ending our marriage, because he would wait as long as it took for me to forgive him. This morning he tried to apologize for last night, but I said it was okay. Just don't drink so much again. Now he is at work and I really feel like I should forgive him, but I don't know if I am being naive. Other than this one thing, he has been an amazing husband for 8 years, and I do love him even if I have been pissed with him right now. Should I forgive him? Now for the top advice before reading the update. The fact that the affair partner showed you more honesty instead of someone who swore to love and value you for the rest of your life should be enough to tell you where this relationship stands. I wish you love and peace. You deserve better than this. I'm hearing lots of explanations and excuses, but not really much by way of, here's how I plan to earn your trust back, or here's how I'll keep this from ever happening again. I'm seeing lots of pretty words, but very little action, OP. Beware. Yeah, the last night he came home extremely drunk, but really makes me wary. If I cheated on my partner while drunk and was trying to redeem myself, I would cut that nonsense out for good. But this guy just sweeps it under the rug with a lie, and then is back to business as usual? Nah. That's true. I'll have to discuss this with him because if he seriously has no plans to actually fix things in the future, why should I be the only one trying to fix this? Thanks for the insight. He hasn't owned up to what he did. He used the things you were going through as an excuse. If he was truly sorry, he would have owned up to it all at once. He's selfish for doing what he did because he admitted that he didn't want to lose you. It's not his decision to make. Even after he confessed, he fails to use proper communication and wants behind your back to find how to win a custody hearing. He doesn't respect you. If someone is bored in the marriage, then tell them, or find ways to spice it back up. Cheating shouldn't be a solution. I agree. He probably should have confessed it all at once. And the fact that he kept that lie is something I should probably weigh more heavily, because he did selfishly take my choice. I could maybe understand looking into how to win custody, because I do know at the very least he loves our son. But you are 100% right, he should have discussed all this with me. Thanks for the comment. And now for the update. So the night I wrote that post, I decided to talk with my husband again. I asked what are we going to do to restore trust, and I suggested marriage counseling. He told me that would be a waste of time and money. He said it was a single mistake, and that he doesn't need counseling for that, and I'll get over it in time. I told him I had trouble feeling close to him like I once did, and that I had a hard time trusting him, so I did think we did need it. He just said that he has been trying his best to be nice about this, but has been nothing but good to me for 8 years, so he's done trying to make me feel better. I just said fine, because he was getting really angry. Besides, I said what I needed to. The next day after I got out of work, I packed mine and my son's stuff, picked him up from school, and went to stay at my dad's. That weekend I got a call from his ex. Turns out my soon-to-be ex-husband called her screaming that it was her fault, that she recorded part of the call. She also said she wanted us to reconnect, so we have actually become friends again, like we were in college. Well, that's where I'm at now. I have a long divorce ahead of me and I'm guessing a ton more therapy, but I'm happy I'm dealing with this now. This wasn't an issue that will fix itself. Thank you all for the advice you gave. Edit. I didn't mention it in this post, but because of some comments, I thought I would. Regarding the night where he cheated, when they slept together, she did not know that he was married. She wouldn't have slept with him if she did, and he seems to have been the one that was pushing for them to sleep together. While I appreciate some people are looking out for me, I'm sure that I don't need to be wary of her. Good call, because this right here, and I'll get over it in time, means he doesn't give a damn about how you feel or what he did. Now he can get over the divorce. In time. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. And I'm so sorry for your loss. I lost both of my parents this year within 7 months of each other, so I feel for you. You absolutely made the right choice. He isn't willing to go to therapy for your benefit and to help regain trust, and he wasn't even allowing you to be angry about the affair and his lying. He sounds emotionally stunted and unwilling to change. I'm so sorry this happened to you, but happy you got out. I know people throw the term narcissist around pretty carelessly on here, but he is a narcissist. He doesn't understand or care how his actions impact others. All of his language was me, me, me. He only cares about how the situation that he created with his own actions is affecting his happiness. I'm so glad that you are getting out. Don't put off getting a lawyer. Do it as soon as possible and not as soon as convenient. A selfish and self-absorbed person like your soon-to-be ex-husband is going to try to screw you over in the divorce. So the earlier you know how to protect yourself legally, the better off you are going to be. Love all how that talk about loving you and not wanting to lose you went right out the window as soon as he actually had to put his money where his mouth is. Good luck with the custody battle, miss. You and your son certainly deserve better.
Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's parents that I don't want them at my graduation when they said I wasn't their real grandson? In November, my 18-male dad's parents and my mom got into an argument because they mentioned they decided to start a college fund for my brother 11-male. It wasn't even brought up. They just decided to share it on their own. My mom was confused since they mentioned it out of the blue but thanked them. She asked them why they decided to make one now and why they brought it up. They said something about wanting to do it for their grandson and making sure it's set so he doesn't have to worry about paying for college. My mom then asked if they had started one for me, and they said I wasn't their real grandson. So the answer was no, and they didn't have one for me. They added something about how I'd get something else and accused my mom of expecting too much. For context, my dad adopted me when I was 5. He started dating my mom when I was 2. I don't know my biological father personally, but I know of him. He died when I was 3, and my mom told me he wasn't a good person and was in and out of jail. My dad is the only dad I've ever known, and I always thought his parents accepted me. But hearing them basically say I wasn't their real grandson hurt. It wasn't even about the money. It was the fact that I was excluded, and realizing the only reason why was because I wasn't my dad's biological son. The argument happened right in front of me and my brother, just a few days before Thanksgiving. Since then, I viewed my dad's parents differently and tried to keep my distance from them. They eventually apologized for saying I wasn't their real grandson, but only because my dad basically forced them to. Over time, I realized I didn't really care anymore. I just loved them more than they loved me. School is almost back in, and I take senior pictures soon. My dad's parents were over for Christmas, and my parents brought up me taking pictures. That led to my dad's parents talking about how excited they were to see me graduate and how they couldn't wait. This confused me. It honestly did, because a month ago they basically told me that I wasn't their real grandson, and now they're excited to see their grandson graduate? I told them that they weren't coming and that I didn't want them there. Of course this shocked my parents and my dad's parents. They asked why, and I told them I remember them saying I wasn't their real grandson. So it doesn't make sense for them to want to come to my graduation when they have no ties to me. My dad looked upset, and his parents were too. His parents basically said I should move on since they already apologized and meant no harm. I told them that when they apologized, it was only because my dad told them to. After that, it got awkward. This happened during Christmas, and I haven't seen them since. My dad told me they're hurt by what I said and that I should apologize and let them know I didn't mean it and that I'd still like them to come. I told him I meant what I said and that I don't want them there. It's not like I can stop them from coming anyway, but I'd prefer if they didn't, since they have no reason to be there. He says their feelings are hurt. It's honestly embarrassing to think they've been my grandparents my whole life, only to find out they didn't even think of me as their grandson. My mom says she agrees with me, but thinks I should consider my dad's feelings, since this puts him in a hard position and wants everyone to be family. I'm not trying to hurt my dad, but I just don't want his parents at my graduation when I just found out they didn't accept me. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The fact that they said that, never mind in front of you, is outrageous. These are the consequences for actions and words, and they're upset they have to face them. And the fact everyone is worried about your dad's feelings and his parents' feelings, but are completely ignoring your feelings, is telling. Not the a-hole. Your feelings are hurt and your feelings are just as valid. Once you say something like that, you can't take it back no matter how much you wish you could. Thank you. I was starting to believe I was the one in the wrong, seeing how much this is making my dad upset. But what really stung was that they said all of that stuff right in front of me and didn't even bother to say sorry until the next day, and only because my dad made them. I don't think they would have if my dad didn't tell them. Right now, it feels like my mom is the only one who really understands where I'm coming from, and my dad is just trying to play mediator. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my dad back the money he put into savings for me when I betrayed him by accepting extra stuff from grandparents who wouldn't give equally to my step-siblings? My parents created a savings account for me, 19 male, and started putting away money for me when I was young. My dad continued after my mom died, and by the time I turned 18, I had a pretty sizable savings account. When I was 8, my dad started dating Nina, who had kids from her previous relationship. They were 3 years old and 18 months at a time. My dad treated them just like his own since their dad was out of the picture. He made a rule after a couple of years when he didn't feel like his family or my mom's family were fair to them. My mom's side couldn't give me a big item for his house if they gave nothing to them. He said it wasn't fair if I opened a gaming console with a bunch of games from them and nothing was sent to Nina's kids. They could send me some smaller stuff, and it wasn't a big deal. My dad's family had to give to us equally though, and he said there was no treating me differently because we were all a family. My dad's family did follow the rules publicly, but in private they gave me extra money and smaller stuff. I never told Dad, and I accepted it. My mom's family kept the big stuff for their house since I'd visit them a few times a month. They never sent anything for Nina's kids. My dad never talked to me about the rule. I think he expected me to be protective of Nina's kids and to insist we were a family and should all be treated the same. But I never felt the same way about the step-family stuff as he did. They got married when I was 12, but to me, they were still Nina's kids. Dad told me about the savings when I was 16 and I gained access when I turned 18. In October, my dad found out about the extra stuff his parents gave me. He and my aunt argued because he expected them to feel bad about originally treating Nina's kids differently than me. He said I'd have grown up feeling ashamed of them if he'd let it continue, and my aunt threw me and my grandparents under the bus, saying if I felt that way, why did I take the stuff behind his back? He was so mad. After he confronted my grandparents, he confronted me and asked how I could let my little siblings be treated differently. He told me a family is supposed to stand by each other. I told him he accepted them as his full family, but I never did. And I reminded him that, in all the years I knew them, I never called them my family or my siblings. I even pointed out how I called them Nina's kids. He told me that wasn't right, and that they grew up with me being their big brother. I said I was nice to them because they were kids, but that was it. Then he demanded I give him back all the money in my savings. He said if I was going to take all that extra stuff and betray the family, I didn't deserve it. I refused and told him the money is mine now. Nina lost her mind when she learned about it too. She didn't have family to give her kids anything, so she felt extra mad on behalf of her kids. She was also mad at Dad for letting me have the money when I did, since they can't take it and split it between her kids. They keep asking for it back and I keep saying no. They can't access it either, so it's safe. But they think I'm an a-hole for taking the money when I knew I was accepting the stuff from my dad's parents. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They can't blackmail you into feeling differently than you do. Not the a-hole. Your dad's rules about equal treatment was his decision, not yours. You didn't ask for the extra stuff, and it's not your responsibility to ensure fairness for your step-siblings. The savings account was created for you, and you have every right to keep it. Your dad and Nina are projecting their frustrations onto you, but it's not your fault. Stand your ground and don't let them guilt you into giving up what's rightfully yours. Not the a-hole. He could have made a savings account for Nina's kids, but he didn't. Nina could have made a savings account for her kids, but she didn't. Even if the bio dad was not in the picture, that doesn't automatically mean his extended family couldn't have gifted and made a savings account for her kids, but they didn't. This is money that was intended for you, and you should keep it. Ask him if he'd rather have the money or a relationship with you, because it seems like this is where it's headed. And start limiting contact if possible, because I'm sure you'd rather have your mom back than the money. I'd love to have had my mom growing up and would take her over the money. Not sure my dad will ever get it because he tried to make me think of Nina as my new mom, and it didn't work. Next story. Am I the a-hole for cutting my wife's stepmother off from my kids until she deletes her Instagram account? My wife and I have 2 children, 8 male and 5 female, and we're expecting a third. Since our eldest was born, we have been clear and consistent about not wanting pictures of them posted online. It was my wife's idea, but still a mutual decision. Most of our friends and family have no problem with that, but we've had problems with my wife's stepmother. She has, on several occasions, posted photos of our children on her Instagram account without our consent. Most are harmless, pictures of her with them or family photos with more people in them. But there have been a few times she took pictures of the kids behind their backs and posted them. Every time we see a photo of our children on her Instagram page, we tell her to delete it. She always does, but the next time she sees them, it happens again. We have been having this discussion with her since our daughter was born. She never listens. Anyway, my family spent New Year's Eve at a rented beach house with some of my wife's paternal family. We returned home on January 1st. That same day, my wife's stepmother posted several pictures from the trip. Buried between them were 3 photos of our kids on the beach. They're both wearing swimsuits and, except for one of the pictures, don't seem aware they're being photographed. My wife and I talked, and we both agreed we've given her stepmother enough chances. As long as she's active on social media, she will continue posting pictures of our children without our consent. We called her yesterday and said that she won't be allowed to see our kids unless she deletes her Instagram account. That means she won't have any kind of contact with them, receive pictures, or be invited to their events. She cried during the call and tried to promise us she would delete the New Year's Eve post and never do anything like this again, but we told her we can't trust her. She can keep her account if she wants to, but she won't be allowed near our kids if she does. My father-in-law, who is also against posting pictures of children on social media, called my wife last night. He agreed that her stepmother crossed a line, but said cutting her off from our children was an exaggeration. He said she just started to make money with social media, but she also loves our kids very much, and it's cruel to force her to choose. I don't think we're in the wrong here, but I'm still worried we're taking this too far. Are we the a-holes? Now for the comments. You've been telling her to stop doing this for 5 years? Not the a-hole. She started doing this around the same time my daughter was born. She eased up during the pandemic, though it was probably because we barely sent her pictures of them then, but went back to it as soon as she started seeing the kids again. Well, either she makes the choice or you do. Your offer expires in a week. After that, she's definitively excluded. I like this approach. Thanks. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being really cruel to my mom when I last spoke to her? A few weeks ago, I, 17 male, kind of left my mom's house without saying anything. My sister, 20 female, and I had planned it, so I was close enough to 18 for our mom to be left with nothing to get me back. She's already no contact with her, and now I'm basically following in her footsteps. We're both tired of mom prioritizing being a stepmom to her husband's kids before being a mom to us. It started when I was only 7. My mom got married to her husband, and he brought kids along who were 5, 4, and 2 at a time. Their mom abandoned them, and our dad died when I was 2 or 3. I don't remember him. My sister has some memories. She thinks they were separated at a time, and we think it could be why mom was like she was. To put it in the simplest of terms, her stepkids came first. If one of us and one of them had something on, she went to their thing. My sister had this spelling bee she attended, and one of mom's stepkids had a karate thing. My mom and her husband went to the karate thing, and mom tried to make me go too, but I went with the school to the spelling bee. She told me I should have been there for her stepkid. She got really mad about it. I told her I wasn't going to support some rando over my sister. My sister was getting an award another time, and one of the stepkids had a game. The game took priority again. I had a debate thing on, and one of the steps had a dance recital. The dance won out. Those are some examples, but whenever it came down to it, that's how things were handled. My sister tried talking to mom, but it ended in a fight. She told us we were trying to hug her, but we never got our time. They got it all. She baked with them and took them shopping and for kid date nights. That was never stuff that happened with us. And if one of us wanted to do something and it clashed with them wanting to do something, they got to do it. Even when they had their dad and were doing stuff with their dad, Mom picked them. My sister moved out 3 years ago, and it got more frustrating without her in the house with me. The Steps wanted to be close to us, but we wanted nothing to do with them. I know it's not their fault, but I still consider them randos and never cared about them or loved them or anything. My mom noticed way faster than I expected that I was gone. She called a bunch of times, and I ignored her at first, but then I answered. She told me I was still a kid and I didn't get to just leave. I told her she didn't get a say when she put someone else's kids first. She yelled at me for calling them that, and this is where I said some cruel stuff to her. I told her if their mom ever comes back, I hope they dump her, and I hope she enjoys knowing she'll never have her real kids or future grandkids in her life because she discarded us like trash. I told her she was a useless mother, and we would have been better off with her dad instead of dad. And I said if she ever found herself alone, to die that way because we wanted nothing more to do with her. I told her I hated her. I told her I never gave a crap about her prick of a husband or her stepkids either, and nothing would change it. Then I ended a call and blocked her number, her husband's number, and any number I knew connected to them. On Christmas Day, I got a DM from someone, I think her husband, and he called me a crap stain and said I had been evil to my mother. He said I needed to get back and apologize and should be ashamed of talking like that to the woman who raised me. I didn't reply and blocked the account. Got another message from a different account 2 or 3 days after, saying more or less the same stuff. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I guess the truth hurts. I hope you and your sister live your best lives. Any family from your dad's side you both can turn to? My sister is trying to find our dad's parents. He was an only child, and we don't know if his parents are still alive or not. You're not the a-hole. I went through something similar, only my little sisters are my half-sisters instead of step. I hated them when they were born and little. Now, as adults, I love them dearly. You're 17. Legally, there's nothing she can do to bring you back. Good luck, my guy. Not the a-hole. Your mom basically tossed you and your sister aside for the step kids. That was wrong. Yes, what you said was harsh, but the truth hurts and needed to be said. Now, you need to check into the Social Security survivor's benefits your mom's probably been getting on your behalf since your dad died. Those may help you beyond the age of 18, for college, etc. Also, check into your state's health insurance and see what it takes to get on a plan. If you continue to receive those DMs, change your number. Whoever is sending them is probably using a free app to get random numbers to send them. She does get Social Security benefits, and my sister is looking into how we can change that, at least for me, since we know I'd still be entitled to them. I already applied for new issues of some documents and stuff that I couldn't get. We're on the way to getting more help. The DMs are through social media, so I need to fully private my account if it continues, and make sure I go through everything so random people can't DM me. I, 28 female, made a joke with my husband, 29 male, and it's costing me my marriage with a man I truly love. How do I fix it? I created this account a few minutes ago because I need advice. A joke I made is spiraling out of control, and I'm losing the man I truly love over it. My husband and I have been married for 4 years, and I love him with everything I have. I can't see a life without him. Some of my girlfriends convinced me to try a prank they've done on their husbands or boyfriends, telling them you want a breakup or a divorce. I thought it was cruel and never wanted to do it, especially to someone I love, but they kept pestering me because I was the only one out of the 5 of us who hadn't done it yet. They shared how their partners reacted afterward, and I stupidly gave in. So I did it last week, and my husband's reaction was nothing like I expected. I thought he would try to talk me out of it or suggest ways to make things work, like my friends' partners had done, but he didn't. We were having dinner and watching a movie when I told him, I'm not happy anymore, and I think we should get a divorce. He looked at me for a few seconds, and I swear, something broke in his eyes. He got up, went to our bedroom, and within 10 minutes, came out with a packed bag and walked out without saying a word. I tried to stop him, especially after seeing him with his bag packed, and I told him it was just a joke and that I didn't mean it. But he brushed me off and walked out. Since then, I've tried to reach him through messages, calls, emails, and video chats, but he isn't answering. I even talked to his friends, but none of them will tell me where he is. When they do respond, it's to say they don't want to get involved. I went to his workplace, but they refused to let me in. And his parents and siblings have refused to get involved too. His sister sent me one message. Joke or not, you really messed up. I've sent countless messages explaining that it was just a joke, even including screenshots of my conversations with my friends as proof. But he's ignored all of it. My friends haven't been any help. They just tell me to give him time and that he'll get over it. Yesterday, everything came crashing down when I was served with actual divorce papers. It felt like someone punched me in the face, and I was and still am in so much pain. I tried desperately to reach him, but all I got back was a message saying he has nothing to say and that I should speak to his lawyer. How can I get the man I love back? I don't want to lose him. I know I made a stupid mistake, and now it's tearing my world apart. Edit, I've already had questions in my DMs about this. To clarify, we didn't have any issues that I was aware of. We were laughing and having fun together all day. There was no recent fight or distance between us. Everything felt perfect. Now for the top advice. The joke is basically telling your partner you want to break up or that you want a divorce. What the actual That is not a joke. You did something spectacularly stupid and are facing the consequences for it. It honestly looks like your female friends know how ridiculously gullible you are and knew exactly how this would blow up in your face. They did it with their partners and nothing like this happened to any of them. According to them, it actually made their partners more attentive and affectionate towards them. So it wasn't a joke. It was a manipulation tool. I can see that. Be honest, this was never a joke. You just wanted to use those words to control him. No, I would never want to control him. I can see why you would think this way, but I was really just joking. Are you really 28? Because this is the stupidest, cruelest, most childish prank I've ever heard of. It seems extremely unlikely that you haven't been able to tell him you were joking. Regardless, that's all you can do. And if he still wants to divorce you because you thought hurting him would be fun, well, fool around and find out. I did tell him it was a joke. I even sent screenshot of my chat with my friends as proof that it was a joke and not me backtracking now. But he isn't responding. Then he probably doesn't want to be married to someone who would hurt him on purpose just to have a laugh. Why didn't you follow him right after he left to the room to pack his things? I didn't know he was packing. I don't know what I thought, but it wasn't that he was packing his things. Next story. Thinking about not attending my brother's wedding because of his fiance's prank on my husband. I'm 25 female and my husband is 30 male. Recently, my brother 32 male and his fiance 31 female came to visit us in our city. My partner and I are new homeowners, so this was their first time staying with us. For some context, my brother's fiance is very into Halloween and considers herself a Disney adult. She has a childlike side and often gets absorbed in her interests. I mention this because I genuinely think what happened was her getting carried away, but she sees it as a personal attack. This disagreement led my husband to cut their visit short. In other words, they were asked to leave. Since meeting him, my brother's fiance has repeatedly said that my husband has a dark vibe. She often compares him to characters in her books, saying it's a compliment, though I'm not so sure anymore. Her comments are based on his looks, his general vibe, and the fact that he has a hand tattoo. During this visit, she mentioned wanting to see someone like him get scared, as she couldn't picture him being startled or screaming. She set out to make scaring him her goal during her stay, but none of us, including my brother, knew about it. The incident that caused all the trouble happened when he tried to jump scare my husband in our dark garage. She hid in a full costume and mask, waiting to ambush him when he came home from a run. But instead of screaming, he instinctively pushed her away, not realizing who it was. She hit her head on the wall and was clearly shaken up. Thankfully, he realized right away from her reaction that it wasn't an intruder. He turned on the light, removed her mask, and helped her inside, apologizing, making her tea, and calling me. I was out with my brother. When we got home, I asked her if she was okay and said that the prank was a bad idea. It could have seriously hurt her. She responded by crying, saying my husband used excessive force and must have known it was her just playing a harmless prank. Then my husband calmly asked, "Are you saying I intentionally assaulted you?" She hesitated, but then said yes, to which he replied, "Get out of my house." I tried to smooth things over, but my husband was firm that if she truly believed he'd hurt her on purpose, she wasn't welcome to stay. She chose to stand by her accusation, so I sided with my husband. Now my brother is angry, saying I should have done more to calm things down and convinced my husband to apologize and placate his fiancée while she recovered from the situation. He thinks this would have all blown over if I had helped my husband back down. I find this unfair, especially since my brother didn't say anything to his fiancée or try to reason with her during the discussion. My husband remained calm throughout, but he clearly felt insulted by her remarks, which I think is valid. Why should I have sided with my brother's fiancée over my husband, especially when I feel she crossed a line and then accusing him of wanting to hurt her? My brother says I was short-sighted and should consider their upcoming wedding. But I think he should be the one urging his fiancée to apologize to my husband. If she hadn't hidden in the dark garage in the hooded costume, none of this would have happened. There's no way he would have known in the moment that it was her, and I believe anyone would have a similar reaction. Frankly, she's lucky she was not hurt more than she was. There is a direct cause effect here, yet she's not accepting responsibility. I think her behavior falls into the play stupid games category. Your husband doesn't have anything to apologize for, and it's offensive for them to try to obfuscate her responsibility. Not a-hole. Exactly this. It's one thing to come out of a closet into a well-lighted room, and completely another to jump someone in a dark garage. She's lucky he didn't break her nose or her jaw. I live in Oklahoma. She's lucky she didn't get shot. Texas here. Getting shot is a real possibility. That's beyond stupid on her part. I can guarantee you that I will not be attacked again. Not funny. She seems inappropriately fixated on OP's husband. Why was she even pranking him to begin with? Do they normally have a jokey banter? This is just so bizarre, and I don't understand her thought process. What exactly did she expect would happen? He would push her up against a wall, pull off her mask, and take her right there? This isn't a dark romance novel. Jesus, that's her brother-in-law. I don't understand either. My husband has no banter with her. They don't have much of a rapport. All her impressions about him are just superficial ones she's made. She doesn't even know him. But she's the type of person who believes she is really good at reading people and convinces herself she's figured them out and what kind of person they are. She has tried guessing things about him in the past, and she gets them wrong because she is basing him off her assumptions. I am sure she does this with other people she meets too. Next story. My 24 female boyfriend 24 male wants to move in together, but after we went on a trip I don't want to. How do I tell him? We've been together for a year, but we've only spent 1 or 2 continuous nights together due to our busy schedules. My boyfriend wants me to move in with him ASAP, and I initially told him I would consider it in a few months. However, we recently went on a trip and I saw a side of him that really turned me off. My boyfriend has a habit of making hurtful jokes, especially about appearances. I feel bad saying this, but he's in no position to make comments on anyone's appearance. He's pretty overweight, although I've never mentioned it because I don't care. While I was getting ready for dinner, he started joking about my arms, calling them massive and comparing me to Popeye. This hit a nerve, as I am fit and muscular, and I already worry about looking masculine. I started to cry because I felt so insecure. Instead of comforting me, he walked out of the hotel room, slammed the door, and said, "When you're ready, I'll be downstairs." Later we talked and he told me he was mad that I was upset, saying I can't take a joke, and that he's sick of having to watch everything he says around me. In the end, he promised not to make negative comments about my appearance anymore. But just 2 hours later, while looking at photos, he said, "Wow, your makeup was actually messed up today." His behavior on a flight home was also disturbing. During a 5-hour flight, he ordered tons of food, left a mess everywhere, and expected me to dig through the overhead bin for his AirPods. When I said I didn't feel like waking up the guy next to me just to look for them, he rolled his eyes and turned away from me. The final straw was his reaction to the flight attendant. She was giving clear instructions to buckle seat belts and turn phones to airplane mode, but he ignored her, busy uploading selfies on Instagram. When I asked him to follow her instructions, he flipped out, saying, "Why do you have to tick me off all the time? You're not my mother. I'll do whatever I please." Embarrassed, I snapped back, "Well, stop acting like a child then." He replied, "No, you are the child. You don't know anything." At that point, I just closed my eyes and tried to sleep, holding back tears. About 10 minutes later, he tried to hold my hand and told me, "You know I love you. I'll always love you. My heart belongs to you." Throughout the trip, everything seemed to be about what he wanted. One day, I suggested we do our own thing, and he agreed. We were apart for just 8 hours, but he called me several times, asking what I was doing. When we met up again, he told me he missed me and worried about me. For me, it was the complete opposite. Without him, I felt peace. Despite all of this, he's always kissing and cuddling me, telling me he loves me. When I got home after the trip, he said he was so sad to go home without me and wishes we lived together. However, his behavior on this trip has completely turned me off from the idea of moving in with him. How do I tell him I don't want to move in right now? I know this will hurt him, but after seeing this side of him, I'm not sure living together is the right choice. Now for the top comments. You should be breaking up with him, not worried about how to tell him you don't want to live with him. Good thing she doesn't live with him. It will make breaking up with him so much easier. That's why he wants her to move in. He can't even mask his BS long enough to get his hooks in. He is that bad. Without him, I felt peace. You know what to do. He's affectionate, so you'll feel confused and give him the benefit of the doubt. And then he can keep being dreadful. Yep, this was the line for me. OP, bite the bullet and dump him. Do not move in with him. He is disrespectful and abusive. He wants everything on his terms. You know the relationship is over when you're happier if the other person is gone. OP, your life could be blissful. P gave you the ick. Going on holidays with a partner can either make or break the relationship. I think it's broken yours. If you move in with this guy, that will be your life. Disrespect and belittling you. He has shown you who he is. You know what his reaction will be already. He will get angry, storm off, gaslight, and love bomb you to try and get you to change your mind. I don't think you'll be able to just tell him, "I don't want to move in," without it ending the relationship. And to be honest, I don't see a future for you with this man-child. Thank you for your reply. Yes, that's how I would describe it. I got the ick majorly, haha. He has told me before, if we ever break up, I think I would get major depression and go back to his home country. Honestly, after these replies, I think I'll start planning my exit. Last story. Am I the a-hole for abandoning my husband after his surgery to go on vacation with my family? A month ago, my husband and I had a disagreement that's still causing a lot of issues with my family, so I'm hoping for some outside perspectives. I'm a 32-year-old woman, married to my husband, who is 34 for 5 years now. 3 years ago, I got pregnant with our first child, and we were both thrilled to become parents. The pregnancy, however, was really tough on me. I had extreme morning sickness and was constantly exhausted. Before my due date, I talked with my husband about wanting to stay at our home after giving birth. In my country, it's common for new mothers to go to their family's home for help with a baby, but I didn't want to. I have a complicated relationship with my father and wouldn't have felt comfortable around my brother in such a vulnerable state. While I love my family, it just didn't feel right. I felt it was my husband's responsibility as the baby's father to take care of both the baby and me, and he agreed. So, we prepared our house for the baby and set things up for guests. My mom agreed to come stay with us, and his mom also offered to help. But after I gave birth, my husband drove me to my family's house, saying he thought it would be better if I stayed near my mom and sister, as they could care for me better than he could. We stayed at my parents' house for a month, and during that time, he only visited us 3 times. I felt humiliated and ashamed. I had to deal with leaky breasts, stitches, and a crying baby while staying in my old bedroom, which I shared with my sister. My family tried to help, but being a private person, all I wanted was to go back to my home and have my husband by my side. I later found out he's gone on a trip with his friends to Dubai. Fast forward to a month ago, my husband fell ill for 2 days, and his pain worsened, so I drove him to the hospital. He needed an appendectomy and spent 2 days there. I stayed with him the whole time, but when he was discharged, I took him to his parents' house instead of ours, telling him his mother could care for him better than I could. Then, I took our child and went to join my family in another city, where they were spending the summer. When I told my family, they expressed disappointment, saying, "That's not how we raised you. You don't abandon your husband when he needs you most." My in-laws were furious, and my sister even suggested that I should have left the baby with him as well. After a week, I came back to our home and he returned 2 weeks after his surgery. Since then, he's been giving me the silent treatment and has been sleeping in the living room. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. What was he expecting? You gave him a taste of what he gave you, which was nothing. His behavior was worse because there were different plans. The opinions of other family members are irrelevant. Phew, that double standard is real. She matched energy. Was it petty? Yep. Did he deserve it? Yes. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Not the a-hole.
Am I the a-hole for what I told my mother-in-law when she asked to be in the delivery room? My husband, male 33, and I, female 30, are expecting a baby boy, and we're barely catching up with preparation and getting everything ready. His mom, kind of a busybody type but can be helpful at times, invited us for dinner and said she has an important request to make. She brought a request up at dinner table and blatantly said that she wanted to be in the delivery room with me when I give birth. I was taken aback by her request. I really thought it had something to do with a nursery or diaper brand. I said I was sorry, but only my mom and my husband will be there. She made a face, got quiet for a while, then brought it up again. Just kept pushing, saying she is as much of a grandmother as my mom, and that she just wanted to be there for support and get the opportunity to see her grandbaby's first moments. But my husband sided with her. I just stared at her and said, "It's all right. You can have the opportunity to be in the delivery room when it's your son who's giving birth." Everyone stopped eating, and my mother-in-law left the table in an instant. My husband had me got up, although I wasn't finished with dinner, but he said we should leave. In the car, he lost it on me asking what brain cell made me think it was a good idea to tell his mom that. I told him his mom kept pushing after I'd already given her an answer. Still, he said this was the most messed up stuff he heard me say. I replied that I was just frustrated and didn't mean to hurt her feelings and cause issues. He argued that if I don't want issues, then I should stop making things difficult and just say yes to his mom's request. He then ranted about how it's his son too, and then said if his mom isn't allowed in there, then he won't be there too. Now, I don't know if he really meant this or just said it in the heat of the moment, but it had me fuming. He's been ignoring me when I try to talk to him and act like I'm not in the room. I think I might have gone too far and created tension by responding inappropriately. Am I the a-hole? Edit. There has been some tension between me, my husband, and his family lately, and this probably blew up because of built-up resentment. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Actually, what you said makes sense as we're talking about your body here. The reality is that your mother-in-law just did you a favor here, because your husband siding with her is showing issues in your marriage and the difficulties you're going to face when it comes to decisions about your pregnancy or your child. I would tell him that if he doesn't come into the delivery room when I give birth, and if he's not supportive of my decision concerning my body, our marriage will be over, and he shouldn't bother coming to the hospital at all, because he will have to wait until I go back to my parents to meet our son. Go see a lawyer to prepare for a divorce just in case, and try to get an appointment with a therapist to help you through all of it. This. Opie needs to prepare herself for the worst outcome. Mother-in-law literally ambushed her by making that request in front of everyone and not taking no as an answer. There are a million reasons to why Opie just wants her mother and husband in the delivery room. Her husband is behaving like a mama's boy and probably thinks that throwing a tantrum like, "If she's not there, I won't be there as well," will make Opie change her stance. This can become a bigger problem in the future with other parenting decisions at stake. I agree with your advice. Opie should seek a lawyer and be prepared. They want to play like kids, but someone needs to remind them all that no means no, and actions required consequences. Not to mention, I believe that the husband set this up. He was way too quick to defend his mother and insist Opie give in to her request at dinner. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to move my husband into a home on his dime? I, 48 female, married my husband, 66 male, 23 years ago. Yes, there was a large age gap. He had a wife and children, and he left her for me. There were problems in that marriage that I won't touch on, and he and I have been happy. His children, 38 male, 36 male, 32 female, and I have never gotten along very well, and the relationship between him and his children have been strained. This is the dynamic, and not what I'm here to be judged on. He was the breadwinner of the household, and I did some part-time work, but that was about it. But we've lived comfortably even after his retirement 5 years ago. My husband was diagnosed with Alzheimer's about a year ago. He's been getting worse very quickly, and while I've done my best, his care is becoming too much for me to the point where I've made a difficult decision that I cannot provide what is needed. I've looked through a lot of options, and I've chosen to move him into a home with specialized care for his condition. I did tell his children, who knew of his diagnosis, about my choice since I felt they had a right to know. Now they're furious with me, claiming it's unfair for me to do that, telling me that I wrecked their home only to not keep my marriage vows of in sickness and in health to him, and saying that I've always been a gold digger, and my choice to use his money to send him away proves that. Obviously it hurt. I vented to a friend of mine who told me that she did think it was cold of me to stop caring for him, as he will most likely decline more rapidly. Now I'm starting to feel bad for the choice I've made. My friend suggested that I should make the commitment of taking a class or something to learn how to care for him. It agreed with his children that I signed up for this when I got with a married man. Am I the a-hole for wanting to move my husband into a care home? Edit. For more information regarding finances, I'm using his money to ensure he gets the best care possible, because insurance will not cover everything. Even if I went back to work, I would not make enough on my own. I'd like to say that I'm all on my own regarding care for him. The children will not see him, nor will they be involved, because the relationship is strained due to the divorce and remarriage. Some people do not like that I did not include a paragraph explaining how much I love my husband and how I personally feel towards the children and him and the situation. I chose to respect the word count and to try to be as objective as possible. I have been happily married for nearly 25 years, and he truly is the love of my life. I want to care for him, but I cannot provide the 24/7 care necessary, and the layout of our house is not suitable for him. So it's been determined that it's easier on him to deal with a full-time transition team at a home than it is to move him with me and then try to tackle his regression and messed up routine. I also had questions of why I haven't looked into other options or if I spoke to the doctors. We had a very terrifying elopement incident which ended in some violence towards emergency services. That has really triggered this move to a care home. I'm looking for the best possible care for him, and the doctors have been wonderful in support and assistance. They have assured me that I am not abandoning him by getting him the care he needs. People ask, will I visit? The answer is that if COVID policies permit, the answer is yes. I will make it a point to visit often until it is no longer helpful, which I have been warned can happen. Finally, to everyone who has shared their personal experience caring for someone in a similar condition, thank you very much, and my heart goes out to each and every one of you. You are in my thoughts and prayers. I'm sorry that I cannot reply to everyone. This is beyond the scope of the sub. Advice from your husband's doctors and Alzheimer's support groups would be a better source of information for making a decision like this. Involving his children in the discussion would probably help them understand and accept your choice, but it's still your choice. I've tried to involve them where I can, but because of how the first marriage ended and everything, there has always been a strain and resentment there. They've never really looked at him the same way for it, especially the oldest. They want nothing to do with it and claim that since I married him, it's my responsibility. His care has been put entirely on me, and I'm honestly at the point where I cannot do what I need to. I even quit the part-time job that I had at the time. I do love him and I want him to be home, but the doctors agreed that if it gets to be too much, he needs help. Opie, get a full-time job. Those kids may have opinions, but they're not going to support you when you're old. To all the people calling Opie a gold digger, it is incredibly expensive to pay for a long-term care for an Alzheimer's patient. It is also extraordinarily difficult for one person alone to care for someone like this at home. Opie is not the a-hole. She's paying out thousands and thousands of dollars to the care facility every year to make sure her husband is clean, fed, given therapy, and is monitored 24/7 to keep him safe. I wonder if the husband's adult children are upset that any potential inheritance they might have had is going towards their father's care. Also, the people who want to throw in sickness and in health in Opie's face are not understanding it is close to impossible for one person to monitor and provide adequate care for an Alzheimer's patient. Opie made the most expensive but safest choice for her husband. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend that yes, the gym is more important to me than her and her daughter?" I, 32 male, have been dating my girlfriend, 29 female, for about 18 months, and she has the cutest little 4-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. As our relationship has progressed, I've been spending more and more time at my girlfriend's place to the point that I've all but moved in with them. This is mostly just because it's logistically easier for me to go to her place since she has a kid and I don't. I work from 4:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. I get to bed by 4 a.m. and then wake up around noon, and then on most days head off to the gym and spend about 2 hours there total. I like to work out. It makes me feel good, keeps me healthy, and I also consider it a professional responsibility to stay in shape. Working 10-hour shifts means that I don't have a ton of time in between shifts, but that I also have more days off than most working people. This was never a problem until I, basically, moved in with my girlfriend. Suddenly, lately, when I wake up and try to head off to gym, she's all, "Oh, it's all about you, huh?" Or, "You only care about doing what you need to do." Daughter doesn't understand why you are leaving and why you don't want to spend time with us. The last time, things came to a head. When my girlfriend started objecting to my going to the gym, I told her, "I'll see you and daughter for a little bit before I go off to work. And then tomorrow I'm off and don't have a workout scheduled, so we'll have the whole day together. But I have to get my workout in today. It's a priority." She then responded, "So the gym is a priority, but me and daughter aren't? If you want to be part of this family, it's not all about you anymore. So what's more important to you, the gym or us?" I responded, "Well, if you're going to force me to choose instead of making room for something that you know is important to me, then I guess I have to choose the gym." I then left. I'm sitting in my own apartment now. Things may be over. In fairness, I should note that she wasn't insisting that I never go to the gym again. She just wanted to renegotiate my schedule. But I was unwilling because I felt as if that would get in the way of my goals. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Not for prioritizing the gym so much, but for basically moving into her home when you weren't serious about her. It's hard on kids to have parental type figures come and go a lot. Makes their lives less secure. Don't jerk kids around. In what way did he show he wasn't serious? In what way did he jerk kids around? By going to the gym? Furthermore, isn't it the mom's responsibility to make this clear before he moves in? Opie isn't a parent and may not have realized his role as a parental figure. You're right. The mom and guy should have talked stuff out. But the part where he made it clear he wasn't serious was when, in comparison to spending time with the child, he said that the gym was his priority, and he was unwilling to negotiate to a solution. He'd try to live with someone without making the necessary adjustments to his life. First off, it's not his kid, and I guarantee that will be made very obvious the second she needs it to be. Keep that in mind. Second of all, parents or parental figures need to have alone time for hobbies that keep them healthy. Going to the gym is one of those. It is not only good for his health, but set a great example for the kid. What he was explaining was that there needs to be a balance and both parents need to help each other find that balance. Forcing one parent to give up something as essential as the gym because that time could be spent with her and her daughter is toxic. Not every waking moment that is not at work needs to be with a kid, especially if that time away from the kid is used in a healthy and productive way like working out. Also, giving an ultimatum is not a great way to go about getting what you want either. He's not saying he chooses the gym over the daughter. He's saying he chooses the gym over this behavior. This feels more like incompatibility than a-hole territory. I also kind of feel like you were backed into making a choice. She gave you an either-or question, which of course sounds terrible. I'm going no a-holes here because it just seems like your lives don't seem to be a good fit. Not everyone fits together, and that's okay. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé's friend she isn't my problem and I don't care about her feelings? My fiancé and I are getting married in 2023. My best friend and best man is going to have a year-old kid by the time of our wedding, and he and his wife are planning on coming out from out of the country to support us, so we decided to have the kiddo be the ring bearer. Over the weekend, my fiancé had some friends over. Her best friend's sister, let's call her Abby, came too. Context: Abby briefly dated my best friend in uni. She cheated on him and he kicked her to the curb. It's ancient history, but I'm not fond of the girl in full transparency. So my fiancé and her friends were hanging out, talking wedding things, and they got a bit tipsy. And my fiancé starts yelling excitedly for me to bring the mini tux photo. My buddy sent me some pictures of tux onesies for his kid, our ring bearer, to get fiancé and I's approval of what we wanted them to get, so that's what she wanted. I came in and showed them, and they were all going crazy over how cute it was. Suddenly, Abby grabs my phone out of my hand and practically screams in my face. Wait, he's your best man? I get she was tipsy, but it really pissed me off. I took my phone back and told her not to yell in my face. So she turns to my fiancé and loudly says, "You can't let him, me, invite him." My fiancé looked puzzled, but her best friend was just like, "Abby, that's his best friend. Chill out." Then this girl starts crying and says she's going to have such an awkward time if he's there and she's single. It was ridiculous. I just left and went back to the living room, and I heard her sister tell her to grow up. So I thought it was dealt with. A few hours later, she cornered me in the kitchen while I was grabbing a beer and started begging me to not invite my best friend to my own damn wedding. She told me it would trigger her anxiety, and that if I cared about her feelings and really am a mental health advocate, mental health is huge to me, but not when it's weaponized, I would at least have him just be a guest. I was freaking floored by her audacity. I told her she wasn't my problem, and I didn't care about her feelings on this. I also told her I'd have a better time personally if she didn't come, so maybe she shouldn't if it would impact her mental state. Well, she started crying again and ran and told all the girls. My fiancé says she doesn't think I did the wrong thing necessarily, but that I didn't need to be so harsh. Some of the other girls gave me dirty looks as they were leaving. I've been feeling guilty because usually I wouldn't speak to someone like that, but I felt she was really crossing a line. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. How entitled is she? Your fiancé's best friend's sister is trying to dictate who you have as best man? Seriously, that is messed up. I think you handled it absolutely brilliantly. You were clear, concise, and polite until she went too far. She crossed the line and you stood firm. That's a great comment. Same thinking for me. My man, it's your wedding. Your wedding. You invite whoever you please, and nobody can say otherwise. This girl has, as you rightly pointed out, tried to emotionally blackmail you by weaponizing her mental health. So she's immediately the a-hole. I'm glad you stood up for yourself, your friend, and your principles. You've done absolutely the right thing. I think, as your wife said, you were a bit harsh, but that can't be helped now. You were obviously irate at a time, and she was tipsy, so it blew up more than it should have, but you're in the right. So, yeah, don't sweat it, King. You're all gravy. If this Abby girl has anxiety about an ex she cheated on, she needs a reality check in my opinion. Your friend has moved on, got married, and had a baby. You literally won't even notice her. This is the final update to the AITA post where OP find out his baby isn't his a month after his wife passed. Link to the first part in the description. Now for the final update. Baby's gone. The results came back 2 days ago. As expected, I'm still not the father. By the time the results came in, I'd already packed up most of the baby's things. My mom was staying with me, helping take care of the baby and keeping me sane through all of this. This morning, my late wife's parents, sister, and brother-in-law came to pick him up. The handover was smooth, except for a snarky comment from my wife's sister.
She said I seemed too eager to let the baby go. I didn't respond. There was no point, but it stung. Despite that, my in-laws, her parents, were supportive throughout and told me that going no contact would be best for everyone involved. I agreed. It's painful, but I think it's the right choice. I hugged them goodbye and they left. They're good people and I will miss them. Now, the house feels empty. My mom went back home today but will return tomorrow to stay for about a week until things settle. Honestly, I feel relieved. Call me what you want, but I'm finally breathing again. This whole ordeal has been exhausting, but knowing I can start fresh feels like a weight off my shoulders. As for my wife's belongings, I gave her jewelry to my in-laws. They didn't want anything else except for a few trinkets and pictures, so they told me I could sell or donate the rest. I haven't decided what to do with it yet, but I'll figure it out. I didn't respond to comments on my last post because the hate was overwhelming, and I was exhausted. My DMs were flooded with some of the vilest messages imaginable, just because I chose not to raise a child that isn't mine and was conceived through infidelity. To those who supported me, thank you. Your words helped me make decisions I wasn't confident about before. And to those who criticized me, I appreciate the perspective. Even if I didn't agree, it made me think. For now, I'm taking a break from dating and focusing on myself. Maybe I'll buy a bike and get back into riding or hit the gym again. I just need to move forward. I'll be keeping this account for about a week before I delete it. Thanks again to those who took the time to support or challenge me. It's been a hell of a journey. Wishing you healing and peace and a happy future. As a grandma of 8 and mother of 3 kids, I think Opie is an amazing person. The decision he had to make was not easy in any way, but I truly believe he did the right thing. If it had been my daughter and grandbaby, I would have gone out of my way to make sure Opie felt no guilt or remorse of any kind. Sending blessings and peace to him is the least of what he should receive. He handled it amazingly, and that baby will live a life with his family and hopefully will be told that he is loved and blessed because of the choices Opie made. You made a right call for the baby and for yourself. The baby is in the hands of people who can love it the way it deserves to be loved, and because of the circumstances of its conception, that wasn't you. Good luck moving forward. I agree. If the argument for abortion is that the baby would otherwise be unloved by an unwilling mother if it came into the world, then surely the same argument would morally exonerate an unwilling father who doesn't want to take care of a child that is not even his. And a constant reminder of both his dead wife and her infidelity, which are 2 of the most painful things a person can go through. Losing your proverbial other half, and the complete, utter, and total betrayal of the love and trust they shared together. Don't listen to the hate. It's easy to pass judgment on someone else and try and act holier than thou. We have no idea how we'd actually feel if placed in a situation like that. I'm sure the baby will be well taken care of. Take time for yourself and move forward. Can we point out how freaking cowardly it is to hide in DMs because you're too freaking afraid to spew your vitriol where everyone can see? Like, it's the internet. You're already anonymous. So imagine how weak and pathetic you must be to have to hide even more by only spewing your BS when no one else can call you on it. This is why naming and shaming should be allowed. Pull up the receipts, post them and the name, and let everyone see who these people really are. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not changing my wedding day date, even if it is in my late half-sister's death week? So I, 32 female, am an affair baby. My dad's wife and her gremlins weren't shy about letting me know. Years of shunning, calling me a bastard, mistreating me, and showing blatant favoritism and overall better treatment to them than me. I left home at 19 and only spoke to my dad when I needed money. Lol. I'm getting married to the man of my dreams, and we're having a beautiful winter wonderland wedding. Corny, I know. Winter is our season. We met and fell in love during it. Plus, I was born in December, which makes it even more special. The problem is that my wedding date falls during the week when my half-sister Amy died. She passed away on the 15th and our wedding is on the 13th. I didn't plan this intentionally. My fiancé was the one who picked the date. They have a tradition of making that whole week about her, with dinners, small parties, and visiting her grave. I don't participate since I never liked her, nor did we have a good relationship. When he received his invitation, my dad called me, almost in shock, and asked if I could move the date to late December or early January. since he didn't think he could attend. I told him that if that's the case, I guess he wouldn't be showing up, because I'm not changing it. He broke down and asked if I was punishing him again. He often tries to manipulate me like this. I told him I wasn't. I just didn't care enough, and I told him not to bother me anymore before hanging up. He called again and apologized, but I told him I didn't appreciate being manipulated or made to feel bad in the months leading up to one of the happiest days of my life. I told him he was uninvited. Since then, he's been basically harassing me. I'm starting to think I might be the a-hole, but I don't know. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your dad clearly is still only concerned about his original family. He isn't even hiding it. My friend, he's not your father. Father is a title earned, and he has not done anything to earn it. What an absolute failure of a man. I'm so sorry he was too weak to protect you from the people who try to make you feel small for simply existing. And those wedding perks that come with being a real father, like walking you down the aisle or having a dance, he hasn't earned either. You're beginning a new chapter in your life, and you're not obligated to carry the baggage forward to this new stage. And your dad and his family are baggage. Not the a-hole. Be selfish for your own peace. My nephew got married on the anniversary of my brother's death, his uncle. It made what was once only a sad day into a very happy celebration. Congrats on your marriage. I would love if someone got married or had a child around the time my brother died. Mid-June is always hard in my family. If we could celebrate new life at the same time, it would open so many new doors. You are not the a-hole. I got married in December. The 10th to be exact, as our anniversaries are around that time. My grandmother's birthday was the 7th, and for me it was like she was with me somehow even though she was gone. You didn't make the decision with malice intent. Enjoy your wedding and don't worry about your dad's family. Think of yourself as Cinderella finally getting her happy ending. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's fiancé I am not interested in being her son or accepting her as a mom? My mom died 6 years ago. I'm 60 now, and for the past 2 years, my dad has been dating Kate. Kate is a widow who has 2 kids with her late husband, both under the age of 5. My dad and Kate got engaged at the start of the year. Around that time, Kate's kids started calling my dad Dad. I think it's because we all moved in together then. Since that move, Kate has been trying to bond with me and build a mother-son relationship to go along with my dad's father-kid relationship with her kids. I've tried to be polite while not agreeing to most of the things she has asked me to do with her. Mother's Day was the first real fight we had. My dad and Kate wanted us to celebrate the day as a family, but I chose not to because Kate isn't my mom, and she is not the person I'd want to spend that day with. I said as much. Kate told me she could be my mom and was willing to try very hard to be a good mom to me. When I didn't go along with it, she said these were important memories for the whole family, and we needed to blend as a family unit. My dad tried to claim I was a big brother now, or would be once they were married, and that I should want to create a close, loving, and supportive family unit for Kate's kids. When I said I didn't feel obligated to, we fought. The fight didn't stop Kate, but in the past month, she's been more upset because, on top of everything, I refused to give her away at the wedding. She said she wanted her kids to do it, and they will be walking with her. But since I'm older and technically able to do it in a more official way, she was hoping I would. I told her I wasn't going to do that and would be extremely uncomfortable in that role. After that, Kate pulled me aside when my dad and her kids weren't home and asked why I was being so difficult. I told her it's because I'm not interested in being her son or accepting her as my mom. I told her she's Kate, just Kate. Her kids are just Kate's kids or my dad's almost step-kids. I told her I don't want to be her son or their brother, and I'm not going to try to be something I don't want to be. I said it's fine to be friendly, but they will never be the nuclear family to me that they want to be with each other. My dad tried talking to me after Kate told him about our conversation, but we ended up arguing. Kate and my dad both said I was being unfair by not even trying the nuclear family thing to make it work. They said being 16 doesn't mean I can't open my heart to another mom and 2 siblings. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Of course no. Your dad and stepmom shouldn't be trying to force you to be a son/brother. All you have to be is respectful to them. I really hope they can understand and respect you. He's still grieving. His dad and Kate need to understand that and give him his respect. This is it. The difference between Kate's kids and OP is that OP consciously knew his mom. He's good, I think, especially because he explained to her that he's okay with Kate marrying his dad and he's friendly with a lot of them. He just doesn't see her as his mother. If Kate and dad don't push it, a friendly relationship can become a trusting friendship. They just shouldn't expect the mother-son relationship. Did you make it clear to her that just because your mom is no longer here, she's still your mom? Always will be. No one should try to usurp that title. Can you offer to be friends? Yes, I said this to my dad and to Kate. They can't separate me from Kate's kids who could accept dad. But they're so young and don't remember their dad. If they would bother to do the smallest bit of research, they'd realize they're being total idiots. When I was getting serious with a man who had 10-year-old twins, I decided to actually read about step-parenting and what my role in their lives would be. Surprise, surprise, children over the age of 5 will likely never have a parent/child relationship with a step-parent. It can still be meaningful and close, but it is totally different to a parent and child. Your dad and his fiancé are being completely unreasonable. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that I will live in my house if things don't work out? Long story short, her kids have strained our marriage, and I've been staying with someone else at her insistence after already being gone for 10 months for professional reasons. For the last couple of weeks, she's had it in her head that she and her kids will continue to live in my house without me until it's sold if we decide to divorce, while I continue to pay the mortgage. Her name is nowhere on any ownership documents. I've paid the entirety of the mortgage and the down payment. I would obviously buy her out of any other equity she's contributed, appliances and small improvements, but I haven't decided on anything beyond that. Last night, I finally told her to forget that as an option. This made her upset because she has nowhere to go, admittedly not comfortably, and cannot afford to pay the bills independently. I also told her that I wouldn't kick anyone out, but she refuses to simply cohabitate for the sake of practicality. We're still trying to work things out. So, am I the a-hole? How long have you been married? 4 years. You need to hurry up and divorce. You've been separated for almost a year already, 10 months working away. She doesn't want you living in your own home. The longer you delay kicking her out, the more money she can take from you. If she bought any appliances, she takes them when she leaves. In respect to the equity in the home, talk to a lawyer. Stop talking to her. Not the a-hole. Your mistake was moving out of your own home. I think this was legally a terrible move. I don't think he can just come back after being gone and demand she move. He already abandoned her and the kids. Not my term, but the law's term. He has some work to do if he wants that house. They're not his kids. Legally, he has no rights or responsibilities to them. He could ignore their existence, and legally he's not in any trouble unless the courts decide he has taken on a fatherly role for long enough, which depends on a variety of other factors. Go back to your house. Now. Talk to a lawyer. Yeah, I believe it's like abandonment or something if you're the one to leave, which just gave her a lot more claim to the property. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-mother-in-law what makes her think she can see my child? My ex-mother-in-law and I always bumped heads. Not because of me, but because of her. When I started dating her son, she didn't like it. I never said anything disrespectful to her because I wasn't raised that way. I tried to make her like me, but nothing worked. She was just that typical boy mom who wanted her son all to herself. She would try to get in the way when my spouse and I did couple things. I still remember when she said I was taking her son from her. I never understood why she acted like this. I'm fine with the rest of my spouse's family. Years later, I got married to her son in Honduras. I always look back on that day and wish I could relive it. My mother-in-law was invited but didn't come because she said she was disappointed in her son for choosing me. I wish that was just a bad dream. My spouse was upset that his mom didn't come, but we moved on and started planning the rest of our lives together. Sorry for rambling, but in 2023 I found out I was pregnant. This is where everything started. My spouse told his family the news and they were happy, except for my ex-mother-in-law. She didn't care or congratulated me. The The only thing she said to me was that she hoped the baby wouldn't make it. The comment replays in my head every day. I knew that if I was bringing a child into this world, I didn't want them around my ex-mother-in-law. That's how it's been. During my pregnancy, she disappeared. I never heard from her, and I didn't receive anything for the baby. Not that she had to send anything. Last year was incredibly difficult for me. My husband passed away in a motorcycle accident, and I felt completely alone. Everyone was grieving, but I still wish he could have met our daughter. My daughter is turning 1 this year, and my mother-in-law has never seen her. She stayed in her lane, and I stayed in mine. Surprisingly, she decided to contact me. She's been blocked, but the only way she could reach me was through Facebook, which is public. She sent me a long message saying, "I know it's been a year since we've talked, but I think it's my right to see my granddaughter, so stop keeping her from me." It was very bold of her to think she had a right to see my child after everything she said. I didn't want to go back and forth, so I simply replied, "What makes you think you deserve to see my child? Am I the a-hole?" Under no circumstance would I let her meet your daughter, the child she wished dead. I am sorry for your loss, and I understand it must be hard, but you need to protect yourself and your child. Sending virtual hugs. Not the a-hole. I would block her and move on. She hasn't been a part of your child's life, and I wouldn't let her in now, especially with how she has treated you and wished your child dead when you were pregnant. Based on how she's acted in the past, I wouldn't put it past her to try and poison your child against you. Not the a-hole. But why on earth do you have your settings to public on Facebook? That is crazy. Block her. You can do this even with Facebook settings to public. I am so sorry for your loss. Thank you. My Facebook is public because that's my business page. I do have a private one with family and friends, and I appreciate it. You can block people from a business page too. I know, and that's what I did.